Hey, it's Shaves, and welcome to another edition of AniTube Digest, where we go over the best and not so best anime YouTube videos to come out this month of July 2023. And I'm going to start with a video on my channel, because it's the shortest one. Amazing! Actually got a shortest video on this that's a rarity. Anyway, yeah, how Tears of the Kingdom feels like a Ghibli movie. If you haven't watched it somehow, please check it out. It bombed. I feel bad because like I can't not see this video now and be like, yeah, that bombed, like that did really poorly. I need to get that out of my head, obviously. Hopefully it does like better down the line or something. But as this moment, I do want to be vocal that I'm pretty bummed out at its performance, considering like this is the first video that I monetized my channel since I monetized my channel, and talk about a pretty popular subject. Anyway, I guess I didn't want to bemoan about that. I guess I really liked it. I really enjoyed making the video, and I hope you guys like it. I got some really, all the comments have been positive, pretty much. So that's nice. But yeah, I wanted to shout that out at the top. Yeah, but it's not the only video this month that had a Ghibli connection kind of video. Another one from Colleen. Colleen's Manga Rex had how this manga, Shiryuki Hime, draws inspiration from Studio Ghibli, and I liked it because she had this like much more like low, reverent tone throughout the whole video, like very serious, but not like in a way that's like, oh, it's time to get serious kind of deal. It felt like deep respect the whole way, probably just with the reverence she has for these movies, and it's kind of just all the movies collectively, and I guess it's specifically Miyazaki's, even though she does pull a little bit from Marnie, and maybe Only Yesterday may have popped in there a little bit, little things here and there, but mainly Miyazaki's movies, and it doesn't have as a kind of a focus on particular movies, although, and so there's some points that she brings up that she's connecting with Shiryuki that feel very general, that like, yeah, you know, Ghibli has the food, it's like really good looking food. She doesn't give any examples of this food. Obviously she shows examples, like she's showing it on screen, but I think leaning into a particular example, like this particular food, like I think she mentioned like Howl's, she's a vegetarian, and even she was like really mouth-watering at like the bacon and Howl's Moving Castle, like that's an example, that's cool. But it was very like a side thing, I think, towards the beginning, and it wasn't like I don't know how necessary that was, but I guess I'm coming from the perspective of someone who just made a video like this, and that was something I really wanted to focus on, that I'm talking about a specific thing from a specific movie, or even like a, you know, a sequence of things, and being a lot more deliberate and not just kind of vagalities, I guess, because I feel like that substantiates your point, or like proves it a lot stronger, where it convinces the audience of that more than, yeah, Ghibli, you know, right? kind of thing. At least for me, as someone who's watched a lot of videos like this and starts to want to have a lot more like that. And again, someone who just made a video just like this. Anyway, I liked that she covered the portion of Shiryuki Hime that wasn't adapted yet. She didn't pretty much use any anime footage. It was just focused on, and that's cool. And she, even though she does say that she got introduced to this series through the anime airing in like 2015, I was the same way. But then continuing to read it afterwards, I think was really interesting. And I do feel bad that like she kind of tried to avoid spoilers, and I think in doing that, she withheld a lot of detail, or I didn't have a good sense of where the series actually goes. She gives, oh, it's more like slice of life, whatever. But I guess in terms of the turns, I guess I would have wanted more detail than that. But I get having the spoiling issue. I kind of just like said fuck it with my my Ghibli video, and just kind of put spoilers at the very beginning, because especially for Tears of the Kingdom, some of the clips I use are from the end of the game. So, but they're good and they're out of context. You know, I'm not really explicitly spoiling anything. Although I do generally kind of explicitly spoil the three Ghibli films that I focused on. But anyway, like I said, that's fine if you want non-spoilers, that's fair. But it just felt kind of like vague in that way, at least in that regard. But again, I just really like the tone. I think her points about the food and then immersive realism, having that term, and then giving those. I felt similar to what I was saying. I was saying I hate making so many of these comparisons. It's just what's on my brain, obviously. But like what I was saying in my video about how the narrative is always following the character, and it's not like it's like we know where they are at all times, and that's how it relates to video games. I imagine that that's an aspect of immersive realism, where she's talking about like, you know, this moment of them sitting in the of Howl's, where they're sitting outside the castle, and she's kind of just taking her surroundings in, the wind's blowing and everything like that. It's immersive. Yeah, I know. I hear you. No, that's good. And all the quotes that she's pulling from this interview that Ebert had with Miyazaki, with Ma. That's a good. That was really nice. With also the author, it isn't just her kind of pulling this out of nowhere. It is pretty early on, when she's like, yeah, the manga author is specifically saying that you're taking these vibes or cues from Studio Ghibli and in this way. So it's all pretty well backed. I think that was really smart. But yeah, I don't know. I guess more detail, I guess, both with Shiryuki and with the particular examples of Miyazaki's movies, name dropping more of them. She does a couple of times with Howl's again, but like, I don't know, a tighter focus, at least with regards with Ghibli, and then more detail with Shiryuki. I would have appreciated, I guess. But I liked the video otherwise, because again, it's the points that she's making, they're all backed up, and the tone that she has is very compelling. It pulled me all the way through. Yeah, I really liked it. The Weeb Crew had a video about the Sigma male isekai with Isekai Oji-san, and this is also featuring Gillies here, kind of talking in their podcast format, but, you know, edited down into a video. And I don't know if this was the case with their previous videos in this style. This one in particular felt a lot more fast-paced and tight, and maybe that's because I'm more used to, I've listened to more episodes of Weeb Crew in between the Shonen Bakuzosaku video and this one. Maybe I'm just used to them having a little more long and drawn out, but this one felt so rapid fire. Lots of quick edits and jokes that were emphasizing, that were really kind of adding to that. It felt very arresting, and I took very few notes because of that. I felt very like point, a lot of specifics and thoughtful observations, not just of this show, but of isekai as a whole, or shows of this nature, and a little commentary, a little community commentary as well. I think there's a lot of really great stuff here, and just the banter that the three of them have is delightful as well. So yeah, it's a banger. It's to be perfectly honest, it's like a video on Isekai Oji-san. I'm like, yeah, whatever. I wasn't the most enticed over that video concept, but obviously it's Weeb Crew, and I like them a lot. And then the video was just a lot more surprisingly, not like, like I thought it would be crap. Not like that. I just don't know how much I would have enjoyed it, but it exceeded my expectations. Yeah, I really enjoyed it. Very, very good stuff. So I think this is a new channel, but I think a patron of mine found it and showed me some stuff. But I checked out their 1970 video about Weekly Shonen Jump, just going through the history of it. And there isn't too much in the way of, like, details in terms of, like, what the staff was like at the time, what they're going through. And it really is just kind of a rundown of the manga that came out that year. It's limited, it wasn't everything really, but it's kind of like what available information we got from it, for considering an English speaker. But for what we have, I think was really interesting. So TrentinArt, I thought that his delivery and everything was just very chill and like approachable in a way that just, it didn't feel like a place of, I know this stuff, guys. Like, okay, let me instruct you plebs about Otoko Ippiki Gaki Daisho. It didn't feel like that. I really appreciate kind of the approachability of this and earnestness, I guess. I really love the shout out to a fellow content creator's videos, Smizzle. So I subbed to that guy. Didn't check out the videos he mentioned, but digest, because but I really like that aspect. It's just showing that he's actually in tune with what's going on with with the community, So that's always encouraging. I really liked pretty much all the explanations of all the manga. It didn't feel like he didn't really delve into his opinion necessarily. And then, there's a video. If you're following the anime encyclopedia, it's like, opinions can be a little bit of a slippery slope. It's not the worst thing. Obviously, this is still a subjective analysis for whatever he has, but I feel like he didn't overextend with any speculation. He didn't really show too much in the way of any pages exactly, or describe. He's describing the plot a little bit and how long they ran. But what's kind of with whatever information, he's just like, I found this was interesting to bring up because this. It felt very encyclopedic in that way, especially the Gutsy Frog entry. I really like that, obviously mentioning the manga and the anime and the sequel anime, but also mentioning this manga that the daughter wrote about her experience of being the daughter of the guy who wrote Gutsy Frog. That's just so fascinating, and I really want to dive into that. I do want to check that manga out at some point if I can find it. So yeah, and a huge point at the end, speaking of Otaku Ippiki Gaki Daisho, mentioning it, and he's like, it's something I noticed that like the main character of that is like on more than half the covers, like the main guy. And so he makes this really good point that I agree with, that Otaku Ippiki Gaki Daisho is kind of the One Piece or Dragon Ball of that era, of like kind of the beginnings of Shonen Jump. Really that first one that ran a long time, that was a very kind of what you go to the magazine for. So yeah, I like that point at the end. And I'll certainly check out the other videos, and hope you do too. Check his channel out, and yeah, I liked it a lot. Sydsnap with I don't follow I follow her channel obviously, but like I haven't been watching too many of her stuff recently. Been kind of a long stretch of time. But this is I spent a day with my favorite Japanese band, Bradio. I'm calling it Bradio because I think that's how they pronounce it. But B Radio, it's like it's right there. But I'm trying to say it Bradio. Yeah, this was great to see. And obviously she's taking a cue from the Trash Taste guys from Geeks Plus's kind of. I like that she divulged into how she got this opportunity at all. I think that was really fascinating. With like her meeting them in a meet and greet years ago, and they recognized her, they remembered her because she was one of the non-Asians that ever saw them live, and then way later, like one of their managers or something saw them on Geeks Plus, I guess, and we're like, oh my gosh, wait, do you want to collab? And she's like, oh! So that was really cool. But she had really good interviews, and I like that she talked with the sound engineer like pretty early on, and just getting a vibe for the venue and everything, and trying to go a little beyond the band. I like that she didn't really weigh it down with much bio or anything. It's just sort of like, here's a band, and obviously coming from a genuine place of fandom, like I really liked the tension she had of having to meet the band, and then kind of withholding the fangirlness, and holding that back. I can understand that struggle, and that was kind of a compelling part of the video for me. But then yeah, I just felt that this came from a really earnest place. I thought the band was really chill. Yeah, this went really, really, really well. Yeah, I enjoyed it a lot. Inakyu back at it again out of a similar subject. Can women like fan service? She's really like, I was just noticing that like she's really trying to refine this conversation that she's had, and then obviously got a lot of success and traction for her, and it's kind of the YouTube thing to make a similar video 5 times to really get yourself into the algo, and I just think it didn't feel like a throwaway video either, because it's just like it feels like overlapped subject matter from her previous videos. But she brings Colleen to recommend shoujo manga, and the intro to that was really funny. And then what was the obviously the personal stuff towards the beginning, and that stuff really showed to me that like I just cannot do it on the same level. Like I don't know how she's able to do it so effortlessly, and feel like it belongs here. Like this is a necessary component for you to bring up that you grew up with this. This is how you how became a fan in that way, and what you saw, and what you were impressed by, and what kind of pulled you through regardless in terms of anime. But then also this being kind of a response to FD Signifier's video without explicitly mentioning it. You don't really bring up any points that he makes. I could be wrong about that, but like it's not like you bring up the video and comment on it necessarily. Not like you had to, but I guess when I was expecting it to being a response video of sorts, you know, I would have expected a particular point, like what is he saying that you want to elaborate on or give an alternate perspective on. Obviously, this is coming from like, you know, FD having coming into the reaction of Weeb Crew talking about it, and then FD admitting that he took your thumbnail idea, concept. At least I believe that was what it was. Anyway, he's changed the thumbnail by now again. He's done it like 4 or 5 times now, and I'm not covering it on Digest here. I reacted to that video in its entirety. Not like, you know, you watch the video, but it's a reaction video in somewhere earlier this month. So it won't be here in Digest, but so you know my thoughts anyway. But anyway, yeah, I would have expected that, but again, it's cool that the video is all kind of these different things and it's all those components, so it just feels very like packaged together. It's not just like, oh, here's another video, let's just me reiterating the same points, because it wasn't reiterating the same points either. It's just kind of adding another dimension to an already existing argument, which I like that with YouTube videos, because when you publish something, that's one thing, you know, and you let it out into the public and you see people's impressions of it, and that allows you to see people's arguments, and especially when it goes viral, you see the same argument. So it's like, okay, here's a common complaint, and I don't think you put it in this video, but you could potentially cite all the you know, because you have all this evidence of people say this, instead of just kind of making up something like people say anime's trash. And like, who exactly, right? Anyway, I liked all that. You know what? Yeah, one point I want to make. The perspective on magical girls of like, yeah, they're powerful and they can save the world and still look cute. And I do not want to take that away. I don't want to diminish that point. It's very strong and like, yeah, perfectly good point. It's, yeah. I guess I'm coming from perspective of someone who's watching a lot more other of the wider variety of magical girl stuff. It's not simply those ones you talk about that we're kind of known, that the magical girls are kind of known for. To me, magical girls have kind of like, what I'm saying is you should watch Ojamaja Doremi. Ojamaja Doremi or Sally the Witch or Himitsu no Akachan, where they're not saving the world necessarily. And that's a good thing to me, because it's showing that they, you know, they're running into everyday problems that girls, but not just girls, guys and anybody of any age can relate to, like social situations and you know, like Arthur. What I'm saying is, you know, I guess there's value to that as well, and those are in these other magical girl shows, Cardcaptor Sakura, Sailor Moon, and Madoka. Maybe not as much Madoka. I think that one's a little more conceptual. But even like the other two, right? There's these smaller episodic, and it's important that the girl is the focus and the perspective character and the one solving the problem, or at least encountering the problem and digesting it and spitting it back out. You know, I don't know. I just feel like there's a deeper thing you can be saying about magical girls that are a benefit to women. Not that I have anything to say about that. I'm not the one to argue that. But I don't know. I think there's a closer dimension that you can look at besides the shows that I don't want to argue you have nostalgia for. But at this point, a lot of the people who are talking about these titles, it's just Sailor Moon, Cardcaptor Sakura, and Madoka, these are shows we've watched a while ago at this point. You know, and how much are we engaging with that media right now? Like, are you watching the latest Precure series? And how is that? Because Precure right now is actually having a really interesting development, because they're having the first time a magical boy. and how his relationship, I've not been watching it, but already, like, as a main cast member, a magical boy, like, in this system, how is that affecting the dynamics and the lessons? Is it affecting it at all? Because probably not, because, surprise, a lot of the problems and conflicts and whatever, it's not just girls that can go through this sort of thing. Anxiety or communication or whatever. General issues, I guess. It's important that girls are depicted going through those sorts of things. And then, of course, yes, being the hero, saving the world, while being in a feminine setting and not just kind of like rejecting it or something like that. Yeah, all of that is there. I 100% agree. And obviously what you would want to focus on. I just want to provide or just suggest to look even deeper. I could check some of this stuff, other stuff out. Maybe not Ako-chan or Sally because they're not subtitled, which I understand. Like, that's fine. You don't have to. No, but yeah. This stuff kind of from that lens, I guess. But then the last point that she brought up towards the end, which she spawned my own idea for a video. I'm like, that actually, why hasn't anyone really made that? I feel like that's kind of of course, but obviously the Miyazaki female protagonist, right? Or just the strong female heroes that are featured in so many of his movies and Takahata's movies. Only Yesterday and Tale of Princess Kaguya. Arguably grave? Not really, but but yeah, like, yeah, just Ghibli movies in general. But what I was thinking as well, I think what you did, the point was pretty much there. And when you said that this could be its own video, I'm like, yeah, it could. Because it isn't just the movies that he directed. This not even a trope really, I guess. It's so specific. It's not really, I couldn't even call it a trope. He's really refining this particular heroine that has reddish hair and wears blue and is characterized in this sort of way that kind of culminates with Nausicaa, but can be traced back in several works that he and Takahata worked on all the way back to 1969 with Animal Treasure Island. Maybe even earlier, guys. Don't quote me. Is there an earlier one? I don't know. I don't really know. Maybe. It could even maybe like his influence on what he saw in Hakujaden. I don't really know. But like, yeah, like it's a whole thing. It's really interesting how they developed that, and diving into those characters from Future Boy Conan, 3,000 Leagues in Search of Mother, Animal Treasure Island. That's interesting. Not to be like, where's this character? I'm not criticizing your video for that. Not at all. I think where your point is, Mickey, is great. And it just got me thinking, like, oh, that'd be cool. Yeah. Anyway, I really love watching your videos so much, and I'm so happy you're thriving in this space. Keep up the good work. It's a banger. The Anime Tea with a viral, yeah, pretty successful, I think, with respect to her other channels and stuff. I'm so happy this video is doing well. We need to talk about Shoujo Girls. A little closer analysis about this, like, complaint about Shoujo series, which is interesting because I watched this right after Inakyu's video, where she's like, Shoujo's great, guys, yeah, and then the Anime Tea's just like, I'm really happy it's not just kind of blind, not to say Colleen or Inakyu are blind praising shouting shoujo from the rooftops or anything, but I just really like this kind of thoughtful analysis here, mostly talking about Kimi ni Todoke, Fruits Basket, and Nana. But my favorite part of the video was towards the end, where Anime Tea's talking about her personal experience with her own social anxiety, her race, and how it's like, yeah, I'm not really going to see these expecting to see myself because I don't expect, it's all Japanese, that sort of thing. I don't want to put words in her mouth, but it's kind of like that. That sort of thing, just when she dropped the compartmentalization of, let's talk about Kimi ni Todoke, now let's talk about Fruits Basket, now let's talk about Nana, when it started to kind of blend, it's like, what can we take away from what we just talked about? And then she, I don't know how unscripted it is or whatever, but that felt more like the kind of vibe I think she wants her channel to go. And I don't want to, you know, presume anything, but the way that I failed to talk about it the last time I talked about her videos. I really like her connection with her audience, where she's like, okay, let's bring up your tea and have something to eat, or, you know, and inviting them to have a conversation, even though it's just a video. That's lovely. And that ending part where it's starting to coalesce and bringing different ideas in and talking about herself, and, you know, that felt like the tea. That felt like the real good shit. And you know, I think the leaning more into that. I'd feel like you know, it feels like the structure of the video kind of feels safe. You know, it feels just kind of like manageable in a way that they compartmentalize and really articulate the feelings, and that's all well and good. I'm not out here against ordering things. I like when a video has a structure, you know, of course. I'm just thinking how, like, there's potential of being able to kind of go back and forth and bumping around these things. With my my Zelda video, what I was thinking, I would have a couple of points about each of these things, but instead of going all of them in Mononoke, all of them in Laputa, all of them in Nausicaa, I kind of went point from this thing, point in this thing, point in this movie, and then back to the other movie, boom, and then it's kind of in a different order almost. So it felt a little more like you don't quite know where it's going, and pulls the audience along. At least that's my perception, I guess. And it's not so much, because I feel like when it's so compartmentalized into let's talk about this, and let's talk about this, let's talk about this, the audience can kind of, not to say I don't speak for I guess for me it's like, okay, I haven't seen Kimi no Todoke, so I'm kind of at a bit of a distance here, because I've engaged with the work like I have with Nana. Nana was one of my favorite series, so when she's talking about Nana, that's when I'm the most engaged, and I'm kind of waiting for that part, because she says at the beginning we're going to talk about these three things. So I'm like, yeah, I kind of know some things about Fruits Basket. I know a lot about Nana because I've seen it twice and I love it, and Kimi no Todoke I don't know too much. So it's like I kind of gauge different things based on my knowledge level, I guess. But when you bounce around, then I'm paying attention the whole, hypothetically. You might pay attention the whole way through, because there's going to be, you don't know when things are going to link into another thing. Do you know what I mean? I don't know if that seems too weird or I don't know, specific, I guess. But I did really like this discussion here, specifically the point that she's making about this, I should say. And I guess I've been hesitant on that, because like I didn't quite fully encapsulate what the problem was, I guess, but it seems to me it was like this depiction of this girl who's the main character, and she's kind of perfect. She kind of does no wrong, and just effortlessly gets the hot guy, and feels very fantastical, and not something that feels ultimately that compelling for the reader, I believe is what she's trying to argue. And in fact, she's kind of counter-arguing this. She's not like trying to prove that these characters are boring or anything. That's another thing I should say. That's why I really liked this video. Ultimately, it didn't feel like a bunch of complaining. it was a sort of addressing this topic of like, no, let's look a little deeper into this. You might see that Toru Honda is this character you're talking about that isn't that very compelling, and she's a very divisive character in that regard. But here's where that kind of here's where it undercuts what you're talking, you know, the concerns, I guess. Here's why it's okay. This is fine, sort of thing. And basically she's giving counterexamples the whole time, and not necessarily going after a particular series, which I appreciate, because I feel like that's more additive and constructive of like what we want. She's championing what she wants to see rather than tearing something down, you know. Although it is important, I don't want to discourage tearing things down completely, because I will be tearing something down very shortly, in a couple months at least, and I've been in the midst of writing about that. But like, it is that the handling of that, to me, I'm thinking of it as like, if I'm tearing this thing down, I need to have something about it of like, okay, but what do you want? It's one thing to complain and to kind of like moan and throw your hands up like it can't be done, and you're just miserable. But you want to frame it in some way that's like, if we did this, if I offer a solution, or if I offer what it could be, and what my expectations are, giving examples from other places, or just aspiring to a higher standard in a positive, constructive manner. I'm not saying constructive criticism. I'm not even really saying that. It's sort of just the angle you take it at that's like, this could be better. And it's hard to do that with an anime or a book or a lot of different things. Hard to have that attitude, I guess. But I guess that, this is what I would like to strive for with this sort of thing. But anyway, I like the approach here. We're just kind of going with counter examples, I guess, of just like, it's not as bad as you think, sort of deal. And yeah, I really like the video. It's really good. I'm going to go a little out. I usually go by length of video, but I'm going to go a bit out of order and talk about two videos kind of back to back because they share a similar topic. And that is Oshi no Ko. First is from Kevin Nyaa talking about the dark truth of such a show. And it was definitely more of a generalized video from Kevin, I think, where he's kind of describing what it's about. And I like the focus on his favorite character of Kana. Hold on. Kevin even mentions that it's kind of the reason he got pulled out of hiatus almost. And I'm like, that's really encouraging. That's cool. Good to seeing that. Thank you. No, but it's good to see Kevin again. And it, this had more of a general vibe to it, I guess. It didn't have a particular angle. Just kind of more talking about the themes of the show and through certain characters and certain points. And it sounded like the way he was wording it that either, I don't know if it was because the show had ended already or if it hadn't ended, or if it did, that like the manga he didn't read the manga or something. I think the manga is finished, right? I could be wrong about that. But he's coming from a place of like the show isn't done yet, but it's like from right now it's doing really well, or it's like he's encouraged by its progression. There's a nitpick, I think, but I feel like with the handling of spoilers with this show, I feel like there was a way to have a midpoint spoiler instead of a very beginning of the video spoiler, because he doesn't seem to need to outright spoil what happens or go into the details of the show after that first episode until the like 8 minutes or 30 seconds into the video. 8 minutes, about 8:30 is when he spoils it for real. But then there's like a point earlier where like he shows the spoiler and he's like, but I'm gonna go into it later. And it's like, I mean, can you get a parse? You don't have to, I don't know. I get he says spoilers at the beginning, and that's totally fair. But I guess you could have had some people, I feel like this could have been an opportunity to have people watch at least a portion of the video of what you want to say about it, at least as of the first episode, or maybe even just the show more broadly of what its angle is of like, more of a critique of idol culture rather than being, I don't know if it was your video or the other video that said this point where it's not an idol show, it's a show about idols, right? That sort of thing. It doesn't really embrace the genre the same way that these other titles have. But yeah, I feel like there was a missed opportunity there to kind of have a spoiler warning more part way. I had already been spoiled Oshi no Ko, don't get me wrong. I watched other people's videos about it, like whatever. But yeah, I think there's just a point for that for maybe taking in the future, I guess. However, I also want to talk about E-Kon's video. It was interesting because these are two channels that had a kind of a longer hiatus. E-Kon's much longer. It was like 2 years, I think. Both talking about Oshi no Ko and kind of taking it on that thematic, darker angle, I guess. Hoshi no Ai and Japan's Broken Dreamers. Interesting, you're not going to use the title of the show in the title. Okay, cool, fair enough. But E-Kon takes a much more what is it called, anthropological, maybe broader position about Oshi no Ko, not necessarily talking about specifics from the show itself, but the whole idol culture that it's taking from and giving you that broader cultural context, giving you a lot of sources, a lot of outside footage, some of his own personal testimony as being an idol fan of AKB48 at one point, where, you know, he's talking about me, this Taiwan guy, and then this other guy. That was a cool personal anecdote. I really liked that. And the whole thing, you know, obviously it's a very the idol industry is very worthy of criticism, you know, but and has a lot of dark things go on with it. There were certain stories. Obviously, I knew about the story that episode 6 is taking from, but I didn't know about that that tragedy in the 80s with that idol who took her life. That story was really harrowing, but I really appreciated that E-Kon has this whole thing without any biting snark or cynicism. It's so easy for I could have totally see this of being like really leaning into the darkness of this stuff and rejecting it completely. But especially it isn't even just the ending, which itself is really encouraging and uplifting, where it's like, yeah, despite that, these girls are still entering the industry knowing full well of all of this for this whole time, because they see the craft and the effort and the dream. You know, they see it and they understand the consequences or whatever, and I don't know, that upliftingness. And it's like, at the end of the day, what are they providing here? What is the thing? And it's to uplift people and to make them happier. And, you know, I don't know, just the thing, the way that E-Kon was uplifting the whole industry, despite the entire rest of the video really picking it apart in terms of like, this is how it was done, and you know, not for any shock value either. It felt everything was very purposeful and added on top of one another too. But again, it felt like it was from someone with not dispassion. Obviously, E-Kon is an existing fan, but just someone, I guess, like, yeah, it felt dispassionate in the way that, in a good way, in a way that was like, this is the reality. This is how it is, and this is what it's trying to predict, you know. And yeah, it was just really fascinating. I really enjoyed both videos for what it's worth. But E-Kon definitely has that like wider separation from the show. So I think in that way, Kevin having more of a focus on the acute things that are happening in the show itself versus the broader outside context, I think the two of them have good complementary aspects to one another. So yeah, I just wanted to shout those out. Enjoyed them a lot. If you want more of my face, I had a collaboration with funebure. It was a lot of fun. It was a session where it's kind of like what Oni Plays does, a slightly artistic, I think is the name of the show, where, you know, it's just them riffing and drawing a bunch. And yeah, I drew, but I didn't have like a online way to do that sort of thing. And so, you know, I don't want to give away how the sausage was made here, but it really was just like a Discord call where, you know, he was sharing his screen and doing a couple doodles and stuff, and I would be doing kind of my thing and riffing whatever. And he turned it into this extremely compelling and fun kind of session, the really fun banter that we were able to capture, and the format of just me being on a phone where you still don't see him, but like he's sketching a bunch. He did a bunch of extra sketches based on what our conversation turned into, like doing the. It sounds like he would be doing this sort of thing that's the illusion, I think. But I just, again, spoil what the sausage is made, how the sausage is made. But yeah, and I also really liked he would give his personal insider monologue of his experience with this call. You know, and because like this was a bad idea, or like giving his outsider perspective, because, you know, obviously he has what happened in our conversation, but he adds to it, and you know, that was really great. And it, you know, also if like it happened a couple months out since then, and it was just a delight for me to watch. Of course, because I'm a very vain person. I'm also a very serious person. Oh man, but like the humor is great here, and I don't want to say that obviously because it's like I'm a part of it. So that guy was pretty funny. Yeah. But I don't know, just the complimentary of that sort of really turning this into something incredible. Not that I, you know what I mean? It made me feel like, oh, the initial product wasn't all that good. And you're like, wow, it actually came out much better. And then I don't want to say that. I kind of just said it anyway. No, I feel like that's not really what I was thinking. Because, again, it's like, well, me doing the recording, right? And him telling us, hey, do you want to do this thing with me? I was so excited because I've seen what he makes and see the kind of level of care and attention and humor and I didn't know what to expect, and sort of like he's turning into this incredible thing, and that's just so encouraging to see. And again, it kind of amplifies his talent that like eightfold for me. Not to be like, wow, you turned this piece. Not like that at all. Even though I keep backing. I just keep and I really like that. Again, it's that internal monologue that he has. He's like, I crumbled to dust. I don't want to quote anything particular, but like, I really had like a I was pretty savage at points in this video. Not on purpose, but it just kind of turned out that way. It was just really funny. Yeah, but barrel laughs, seriously. This was probably my favorite video of the whole month. Actually, yeah, easily. This was so much fun. And again, probably because I'm in it and it's I'm vain. No, but it was genuinely like fantastic, and I really hope he does this with more people. Like a lot of people should do this. And in this, not that you need to make the same thing every time, you know, I don't want to stifle your creativity like that or nothing. But I'm just saying, this was really good. And I'd love to see more of this, honestly. Yeah, great time. Thanks for having me. We became Americans for a day and failed. The Trash Taste special in America, where all they did was have a burger eating contest and shoot a bunch of guns. Which, like, they had never shot a gun before, so their reactions to shooting a gun for the first time were fantastic. It was actually phenomenal. As someone who ran a rifle range, ran a shotgun range, you know, when they were shooting the shotguns and they were like, my shoulder, like, look, there's a red mark. Yeah, it's because for whatever reason the guy wasn't showing you a proper stance. You had the butt of the barrel like up here, so no one like this thing is gonna like of course it's gonna do that. Like, so it needs to be not to instruct you right now, but it was like they need to lean into it and then have the butt of it like more in the soft part, so that like it doesn't. It's still gonna hit you. Don't get me wrong. It's still like someone punching you in the shoulder, but yeah, they wouldn't have had that kind of reaction at least. It was really, really fun, all things considered. I think their banter's great, and of course, as normal. And it was just, yeah. I think it you know, I like talking about all their specials really, because it's just like exciting to see them broaden their horizons and doing something. It's also more of a an elaborate thing, right? But again, in this instance where they actually had a third thing about like race car driving, but I guess they didn't really capture enough to weave a good enough narrative to really make it worth being in the main video. And I like that transparency, actually. But it always makes for good Patreon content. It's like, oh, that's actually pretty smart. But yeah, I really liked that video a lot. I don't have too much else to say beyond that. It was just really fun seeing them like shooting. It's like, oh no, is this gonna make us like guns more? And they're like, oh, that was actually really fun. And it's like, yeah, it was. Yeah, it was a really good time. The Princess Mononoke problem from STEVEM. He was holding on to this for a while. He was working on it for a while. This man. And I'm hoping that the Spirited Away one doesn't kick his ass as much. And you know, I'll be frank with you. I'll shoot straight with you. It's a lot of the same stuff. It is not like the same. It's the same level of quality, detail of information, the real story, Um, Extremely fascinating and additive and important, and like no one's doing this in this space, and I cannot recommend this enough. Although but it's like at this point, you know, I think your hopefully your renown is being proven. Um, and you just keep doing your thing, man. I liked that you got a sponsor. I know you've done. I'm pretty sure you've done sponsors before, but that was cool to see that you've got one. You have one, you know, that sort of thing. Um, and I will say that my favorite part of this video, because the rest of it was just like, I just I wouldn't have watched it. I would have watched it like without digest. You know what I mean? That sort of thing. I would have just been like, sorry, the timer. Um, I would have just watched it regardless, sort of thing, because that's that sort of like additive, sort of you know, valuable thing. But I would say that my favorite part of this video was the very end, where after you lay all of this out, all of these problems, and it's still succeeded, and it's the reason they don't do cell animation in Ghibli anymore. It was because of the disaster of this project. That you end it with like, yeah, Kondo dies, and then they just go right into the same situation. They just do another production, and it's similar. And you just have this like, what was this for? You know what I mean? It's like you really are literally left for words, and you just kind of end it there and leave it lingering on your face like that for just like, fuck are we doing here? You know, it feels genuine disappointment in the studio, you know, and it's like the burden of knowledge almost. That was extremely compelling, and it's that, you know, you've expressed emotion in these videos before, of course. That one that I think, yeah, that was a particular strong one for me, that I really felt. It was like you really punctuate the video, because this was just sort of like, yep, yeah, of course this happened. You know, so I think it was easy for me to kind of have this all wash over me. It's like, yeah, of course this happened, and none of it came as a shock to me. But then you sitting on it for a couple of days, like, yeah, and they're just gonna do it again, not even learning their lesson, just do it. Their protege, their literal successor, died from from overwork on this project, and they're just gonna do it again. You know, it's just this disappointment thing. It's just like, yeah, that does suck a lot. You know, so yeah, it was a really great choice, actually. Yeah, but I really like the video, of course. But it's sort of, I'm obviously out of words, because I feel like I can't help but talk about every single one of your videos, because they are that additive, and no one's out here doing this sort of thing. So of course I'm going to talk about all of them, but I think that leads to me feeling like I can say less and less about your stuff, because it's so effing consistent, stylistically, substance-wise, and, you know, seeing you wreck yourself over it. I guess maybe not wreck yourself. I guess it wasn't the Ano video, but yeah, gosh, looking forward to the next one. Gosh, it really has that same tinge, doesn't it? Oh no. Yeah. Cool anime about music got recommended to me by YouTube Algo. Thanks, YouTube Algo. Wish you'd do that for other video. Whatever. Shoes in the Dryer. First time I've talked about his channel. He's talked about some anime, but he seems a little more variety channel. And he does call this like it's another weeb video. It's like, okay, that's fine. But he knows his shit. He definitely knows his shit. Talk about Ongaku, hell yeah. Likes all the titles he talks about, and I think the selection was good. It didn't feel like you had to overextend. You had to talk about everything. I like this little miscellaneous of like kind of a rapid fire of some other smaller titles or things you don't have as much to say about, and then like towards the end, like the post credit thing where you're talking about live action movies was really nice. But this is similar to Pyramid Inu, where it's like, oh, this is Hazel's influence. You know, this I don't really know if you have been inspired by Hazel at all, but like, yeah, it's a similar idea where it is just, here's a laundry list. Let me just talk about Solanin for 8 minutes. Let me talk about this other thing for a little while and not have them be their own individual video, but kind of in this one batch of a thematic idea that gets you to motivate to make all of it kind of deal. I don't know. But it's fun. It's a nice grab bag sorts of thing. I was especially appreciative of the much longer section about the manga about the ghost of Jimi Hendrix possessing that one girl. And then it kind of expands into something more. That's just the premise of Hikaru no Go. No, I'm kidding. It reminded me of that, where it's a similar kind of a ghost of a certain skill possesses this person that goes into this sort of skill and gets better at it, type of thing. But not, obviously different series. Yeah, but I like that one because it just wasn't an expected pick at all. Like, you have Boti the Rock, sure. You have Colleen, okay. You have Beck, of course, starting the video with Beck, obviously. But that one was a wrench, and I like wrenches. I'm a big fan. Yeah, I like the video a lot. And I'm gonna end this video on Bonsai Pop's video on Rurouni Kenshin controversy, a whole nearly 40-minute video dedicated directly to the elephant in the room with regards to Kenshin, which they've talked about before. I remember them talking about it in their original Kenshin video a while ago, and they say that they're making a whole bigger Kenshin video on the level of some of their other videos, and they realize that like this subject about the author doing this incredibly heinous crime, and yet still being able to continue his work and not being punished adequately, I think giving a much more nuanced and not taking one side or the other, kind of obviously demonstrating their position that being fully transparent that like they still love Kenshin and they're going to talk about Kenshin a lot and engage with the media, not at all condoning or agreeing or wanting to support the author in any which way, making their stance on that clear, but not discouraging and even kind of speaking out against people that are shaming others into that. Because I've seen people who are like, if you tweet about these artists that are working on the Kenshin, and I'm speaking to one particular mutual, and I'm so sorry to subtweet, but like they'll just mute you or block you or something. Like, I'm just gonna stop talking to you if you talk about this artist that is associated with this adaptation of this author that did this thing. It's like, okay, I don't really want to engage with you in that point. Fine, because I just wouldn't want someone that I need to be on eggshells about. But I feel like we can have a more nuanced conversation, not like a fair and balanced, and actually not lessening anything of what he did or lessening other people's feelings about that, or saying people are wrong for such and such. Not at all. It's just kind of discussing it more. It's not just like figured he's puke and the series is puke. Bye. I like nuance. I like not generalizing things. I like to kind of have this deep dive, and it can get pretty thorny. I think I feel like in other scenarios, I feel like I would be a lot more defensive about the Japanese, about people bringing up the Japanese, the way that they're talking about Japanese culture and history in this video is very blunt. But it does feel like it is being well researched and delineating what is their opinion and what is reality, and or speculation or whatever, and what is like, this is what happened, and it's like, it's just understanding. It's getting an understanding of what happened, and not so much like condoning it or defending it. Not at all. It's sort of just discussing it in a way that we get a better understanding. I guess I've been repeating that a bunch of times, but yeah, I really liked that. And again, it's sort of the fearlessness that Bonsai Pop has with doing this sort of thing. It reminds me of their Afro Samurai video of just being, we are anti-fascist. Talking about it in that way, it was just like so. Yeah, very few anime YouTubers have that kind of, or at least they claim. Some of them postulate. I think some of them claim to have those sorts of positions, but they don't it doesn't feel like they have the stones and like the really punk, don't give so X be damned type of attitude that these two guys have. Yeah, I love it. Very happy that they're operating and still continue to operate in this space. Very valuable figures here. Very valuable creators. Figures. Yeah, really like the video a lot. I'm looking forward to the Kenshin video in full. And that'll do it for this installment of AniTube Digest. Thank you very much for watching. You guys are great. You have a great month. Yo, peace.